Welcome to the 360 Show, episode 10 of season 6. There's a lot to cover, so stay tuned for this one as Heinrich Klaassen put out some comments with regards to the amount of games they are playing. It's not enough. There are some players around the world that are not happy that the big three are playing the majority of the games, and that's Australia, India, and England. Also, we cover the mega auction with some big names in England cricket. Not in that mega auction. Also, India and Australia, big test match series coming up, guys. We need to cover all of that. So stay tuned, and here we go. 360 view as we cover the six main topics in 360 seconds. And we start off with the big three taking up all the games, most of the games at least. Look at that. England, Australia, India, 19 plus matches, and the rest really falling behind. And that's for WTC between 23 and 25. Guys, we've got Heinrich Klaassen quoted saying, our test team is playing 2 test series, which is ridiculous in my eyes. Only 2 test matches in a series for the last while. It's disappointing, and it doesn't sit well with the players because we want to play more cricket against these guys and against the other countries as well. But we always find a way to just play 2 games, max 3, and it's annoying. Where with England, Australia, India, you get 4 test match series with the Ashes even 5. Some guys being unhappy with regards to that. Is the ICC maybe guilty of running cricket too much as a business? Yes, it is a business, and you can't hide away from that fact. But still, you need to look after the players, their welfare, and also after the different countries. They need a fair chance to play enough cricket to grow the game of cricket in the various countries. And cricketing boards need the opportunity to grow the game over there. Anyway, let's hope we'll see these teams catch up over the next few years. I don't see that happening unless something fundamentally changes at the ICC, and I don't see that happening anytime soon. India's year of T20 internationals under Sanju Samson, absolutely incredible record as they've won 24 out of 26 T20 internationals. Guys, that is not normal. Really incredible. Look at those stats against Afghanistan. 3-0, 8-0 in the World Cup, as we very clearly remember the win there. Then to Zimbabwe, which was one of the losses. Also Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and then South Africa, which was the other loss. So the only 2 losses happened in Africa. No, absolutely incredible, guys. 967 runs for Sanju Samson, and that's the most runs for India in 2024. And it's a staggering record set by Kaustubh. 24 out of 26, 92% win record, and that's the highest percentage of any team in the year. Really incredible, and credit to Sanju Samson and his team for the amazing performances, the amazing consistency in T20 cricket that doesn't happen very often. Let's move on to the West Indies and England. Obviously, England winning that T20 international series. The 4th one, West Indies came back and won one there, and the last one was rushed out. But there's been quite a bit of unhappiness on social media platforms with the timing of these games, which meant that the toss played a really big role. All the teams batting first had a big disadvantage as the dew came down in the evenings, and it was a lot easier to bat second. And it goes back to the ICC. Is cricket a business, or is it still a sport? And I think we need to take care of this beautiful game and make sure that we give the players the best opportunity to entertain the crowd and the people around the world tuning in to follow them and to follow the entertainment. Nonetheless, England coming out on top, fighting back after that ODI series, and they won the T20 International Series 3-1. Saqib Mahmood, top wicket taker there with 9. He's done really well. And then Phil Salt, 162. Guys, please take note of a guy named Jacob Bethel. 127 runs in this T20 series. I watched him play. Very good on the eye with shot making. He looks like a really hot prospect for the future. And I think he actually grew up in the West Indies, or he's got inheritance there at least with his parents, I think. Maybe grew up in England, in Birmingham, if I'm not mistaken. But it must have been nice for him to go back to where I think his folks used to live back in the day. No Archer in the auction is the next topic, the big mega auction that is, guys. But not only Archer, also Ben Stokes, Joe Root. None of them in the big mega auction. And will the English players be focusing on the big Ashes coming up? Maybe that's the reason. These guys weren't picked up. None of them were retained. And that maybe tells a story of the trust or the faith that some of these franchises have in the English players because of past experiences. A lot of English players pulling out of the IPL halfway through the tournament, towards the back end of the tournament, just before the knockouts, and that's hurt some of the franchises in the past, and maybe some of the franchise owners getting really clever and behind the trend and deciding, you know what, we're not going to take a chance. It's the Ashes this series. We cannot afford to lose one of our best players building up to the knockouts in the IPL. So very interesting developments there as South Africa, Australia, and some of the other nations still hot favourites when it comes to the IPL auctions. Australia 3-0 against Pakistan. Great comeback after losing the ODI series. There we go. It's convincing win there for them. All three games relatively comfortable for Australia. And news from Pakistan. Aqib Javed set to take over from Jason Gillespie. So it just builds on the confusion over there in the Pakistan board at the moment, as no one is sure exactly what's going on. It seems like Gillespie will be coming to South Africa for that 2-test match series and possibly will be finishing over there, as Aqib Javed might just take over. And then last but not least, Sri Lanka beat New Zealand in ODIs. Great performance from Sri Lanka under Sanath Jayasuriya. Look at that record, guys. Absolutely incredible. And this is the new look Sri Lankan team. Refreshed, re-energized, and ready to go under an absolute great of the game. So great to see Sri Lanka back in good form. And it will be interesting to watch them play against South Africa in a couple of weeks' time in a big test match series. And that, to you guys, is the 360 view. Let's move on to the main topic of the week, and that's got to do with Border Gavaskar Trophy, a 24-25 Australia versus India, guys. That'll happen on the 22nd of November as we kick off with the first test match in Perth. How exciting is this? I am on the edge of my seat right now already. So much looking forward to this, to just get going. There's been such a great build-up. India losing 3-0 against New Zealand not long ago. Australia also had its ups and downs throughout this year, but it's all to play for in this big 5-test match series. That hasn't happened since the early 90s, so incredible to see that happening again. What kind of a role will that play? I think if you have a 2-3 test match series, it's pretty easy to see the finishing line. You know you need to start well, settle in a bit, and then finish strong. Where with a 5-test match series, all of a sudden, a lot of things to take in. You think of injuries, you think of fatigue with players, you think of players maybe starting well and then getting so drained mentally that they start losing confidence halfway throughout the series. There's so much time in 5 test matches, and we've seen this happen a lot in the Ashes in the past. Just drama. I mean, from test match 1, 2 to 3, so many things change, and then there's 2 more to go at the back end. And there's also the possibility, if you start playing bad cricket, to really get embarrassed out there. When you get to test match 4, you're 3-0 down, and you almost just want to go back home. You don't want to be there for another 2 weeks. So lots to take in. And I think the mental side of it will play the biggest role as India start over there in Australia. Do they have the ability to forget about what happened in India not so long ago? I think they do. I think there's a lot of character in this team. I do, however, have some doubts as there's a lot of young batters going over there. One of the biggest things in Australia, you need runs on the board. The wickets are really good. Yes, they're fast and bouncy, but they're good. It's difficult to get a lot of wickets, and especially wickets in clusters. But if you don't get runs on the board, you don't give the insurance to the bowling team, the likes of Bumrah, Mohammad Siraj, to really bowl long spells, to keep those attacking fielders in place. So to me, guys like a Jaiswal and whoever comes in for the injuries, which we'll cover in a minute, Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Rishabh Pant, you need these guys in form. You need a lot of runs on the board to keep attacking fields for longer periods of time in Australia, as you don't get a lot of opportunities to take wickets. So we'll see how that unfolds. I really hope for India's sake that some of these youngsters have got the mettle, the character to play in the hostile environment of Australia, because it can be brutal, guys. The people wait for you in your hotel foyer just to get a little word in there. Oh, mate, you're right, mate. Good luck tomorrow. Anyway, I'll never forget that. The Aussies are brutal sometimes. They really get behind their team. They love touring teams coming over, but they really do everything they can to unsettle you touch, which is great. In a nice way still. I mean, I've never really had a terrible experience, but they are in your ear constantly. You're in the press all the time, and they hardly ever give you a chance. So there's one thing that really stands out for India, though, this time around, not this time around, as we saw last time as well. And that's Mr. Virat Kohli and his record against Australia. Also, the fight he showed playing in Australia in the past, his record speaks for itself. Kohli versus Australia in general, average of 47. And Kohli in Australia, average of 54 with 600s and 450s. There's not a lot of cricketers in the world touring to Australia with that kind of record, guys. And that is pure mental toughness because he wants it. He's a fighter. And if he gets a good series going, it will really be good for India and for the bowlers and for the rest of the batters who can believe then in their own ability. And for guys like Yashasvi Jaiswal going to his first big 5 Test match series over in Australia, do guys like that have the mettle? Will they get enough inspiration from guys like a Virat to go out there and to get the runs on the board, which will be crucial? Injuries for India, guys. No Rohit Sharma in the first Test match in Perth. Also, Shubman Gill to miss the first Test match. Big blows, guys with experience there, eh? And who will come in for the two of them? Will it be a KL Rahul, the more experienced guy, or Ishwaran, who scored a lot of runs domestically but hasn't done really well of late for India, eh? And then there's also Padikkal. So two of them have to come in out of the three. I've got my money on KL Rahul purely because they need some experience in that middle order. But where will Padikkal fit in there if he's the go-to guy, or Ishwaran? Anyway, it's all to decide there for the selection panel. We'll see what they get up to. As Ravi Shastri also being quoted as they need to bounce back. The best way to bounce back in a new series is to forget about the previous one and just to go and start well. And it's always important away from home. Start well in that first Test match with your first catch, the first session. There's a bit of a mental test that you'll have to go through in that very first test. And the first day, the first hour. Do you have the ability to throw the first punch, like in a boxing ring? Always important to sort of start well. In rugby, the game that I love, the first tackle of the game, set the trend, put the peg in the ground. So that'll be important for India. And that's what Ravi Shastri is calling out for. He's also quoted saying Virat Kohli wanted to be the villain in Australia. He took the bullets and it didn't matter to him. His desire was to win. And that's exactly what Virat is all about. And that's Ravi Shastri being quoted. Guys, let's pull up the two squads quickly. Captained by Pat Cummins and Rohit Sharma, as Bumrah will obviously take over in that first Test match as captain. Two fantastic Test playing nations, two great teams. I feel the Indian squad is a little bit less experienced compared to the Australian squad. And obviously Australia playing at home. Steve Smith, as you guys know, have moved to the middle order. That's where I love to watch him play cricket. He scored a lot of runs in that position in the middle order, number 4. But the bowling attack is the big worry for me for the Indian batters with Josh Hazlewood, Cummins, Scott Boland, and also Mitchell Starc, guys. Those seamers are really, really good over there in Australia. They can bowl long spells. And also the batters, obviously, Steve Smith. If he piles on the runs, it'll give freedom to this bowling attack. And I think that'll be the battle with the two teams. Who can put the runs on the board in that first innings to give your bowlers the freedom to keep the catches in for longer periods of time? Because those nicks come out of nowhere. There can be an hour or two when nothing happens and all of a sudden you get 2 nicks. If you don't have your 3 slips in place, you miss out on those opportunities. So there are 2 great Test squads here. Who's got the upper hand? I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Yes, Australia playing at home. India losing 3-0 in India against New Zealand. So maybe there's a slight edge for Australia. Also, the Indian batters, some of them inexperienced. Some of them haven't scored runs over there in Australia before in their lives in a big Test match series. So all these things will play a role. But there are also things that count in the favour of India. And that's big fighters, big match temperament in a Virat Kohli, Jasprit Bumrah, and a few others. They'll need individuals to step up. And I think that's the area where, yes, it's maybe their weakness in this Test match series, but also that can spark the fire for Team India. So they'll need the experienced campaigners, the legends of the game, to stand up and to have a big series. Playing over there in Perth, and I think going over there just to prepare well and to really make sure you put yourself in the match situation as much as you can in the nets. So really get fast bowling going. You guys have heard them throwing with sticks. They can up that to 160 k's an hour sometimes. So I've done this before in net sessions leading up to big test match series with fast bowlers. Really force myself to face fast bowling around my head all the time leading up to a big test match series. And I feel that's what the Indian batters need to do. Really practice like you're going to play. Very important over there in Perth. Can be hostile. It's in the western part of Australia. The fans really get rowdy sometimes. They make you feel like you are a million miles away from home. And if you don't start well, it can get down a slippery slide very quickly for Team India. So they need to start well and they need the big players to stand up. I feel it's slightly in the favour of Australia, but it's all to play for India as they had success not long ago over there in Australia. All right, let's move on to ABReacts. Shamsi and Bumrah. Look at that. Let's pull that up, guys. Bowling record in T20 internationals. Both 70 matches, 1509 balls bowled, 89 wickets, which means the strike rate is exactly the same. Only Shamsi's economy rate is a touch higher than Bumrah's. So incredible numbers there from Shamsi. It's quite a fun fact that he put out there for us, and really, really cool. Congrats to him for comparing with someone like a Bumrah. It's not necessarily something I would have posted, but knowing Shamo, no, I'm just kidding, Shamo. If you're listening, you've got all the right in the world to post that. You've done incredibly well, and looking forward to watch you perform soon again. Yes, ESPN Cricket Info. Australia's bowling coach Daniel Vittori will leave the team during the first test against India in Perth to attend the IPL mega auction for Sunrisers in Hyderabad. Big thing, not a big thing, in my opinion. What is Daniel Vittori going to teach the bowlers at this stage of their careers? Vittori is needed there for a day or two. He'll come back and nothing will change. I don't think it's the biggest story in the world, guys. I'm going to just pass on from that one. At the end of the day, he's been there for ages. And as a bowling coach to go for a few days, those bowlers under Cummins, Stark, Hazelwood, Boland, they know their games inside out, especially playing over there in Australia. What will be more important for them is their tactical play with regards to field placings. And that's where the coach and the captain comes in. So big story, not a big story in my opinion. Then Springboks, Sonny Bill Williams. It's not something you see very often in cricket and some other sports where players give big compliments to individuals and showing that it's actually also the individual role that plays a huge role in a team sport. Damien D'Alende, the inside centre for the Springboks, has been absolutely incredible. And Sonny Bill here says never gets the media attention he deserves. And I fully agree. He is a big part of why the Springboks have had the success they've had in the last 10 years. Absolutely spot on. And in a team game, how do you balance playing for the team and making an individual mark? So when do you play for yourself? Because ultimately it's yourself and your potential and your ability and your performances that got you into the team. And now you're told, but play for the team. And this is what you do. So I can give a bit of light to that. You get a role in the side, guys. And guys like a Damien D'Alende and some cricket players in the past, like a Bumrah, really understands his role, for instance, understanding his individual role within the team environment. And that's crucially important for the coach and the captain to make that clear to the individuals. This is your role. If you can do this well, you'll be in the team and your spot will be safe. If you get away from your role and you start doing other stuff and you don't perform your role well, that's where you'll be in danger of being dropped. Anyway, interesting dynamics there. Most team sports have individual elements to it, guys. And yes, you still got to play for the team. But how do you do that? You do your role well. And if you don't know what your role is, go make that clear with the coach and the captain. Ask them what is required of me. And once you do your role well, that's where there's room for magic. Alrighty, moving on to the comment section then, guys. As a lot of you had fun with me talking about my dream team. And let's just get back to the reason I did this dream team. It didn't have as much to do with the names, because if I had to get really technical, the team might have looked different. I did that in 5 minutes, guys. I just looked for examples to show you how I'm going to look at the balance of my dream team. So maybe I should have phrased that differently. But nonetheless, let's go through some of the comments. What's your views on Jos Buttler at the RCB? He is a 360 player, and he can also captain. Very, very, very true. Also, wicketkeeper, remember, he's a fantastic player. I think he will be very expensive. That is the problem. I think he's going to go for a lot, and I think a lot of teams want him. So it's a difficult one. It would be great to pick him up. But let's see. Remember, he's very, very first up in the auction, guys. So I think there's going to be a big hype around him. And if RCB goes for him, it'll take a big chunk off the budget. And I want that budget to go to those 4 bowlers in particular. I know you guys remember those 4 names. Anyway, that's my reason why I don't think they will go for Butler. Decent squad, but Sky instead of Cameron Green at number 3 is a non-negotiable. I love Sky, and if I had to rethink names, I'll probably look at it differently. It doesn't have as much to do with the names, but rather that Cameron Green can bowl you 2 to 4 overs every single game. So I always want a batting all-rounder in those top 6, preferably 2. But 1 is good, and I'll take a Cameron Green because then you can go and really specialize with your 4 main bowlers, guys, and possibly even 5 if that number 7 is a spinner as well, a batting all-rounder again in a Jadoo or Rashid Khan. The list goes on. Anyway, that's the reason why. Remember, we focused more on the balance of the team rather than the names itself. I wanted to show you guys the thinking of a captain when he puts a team together and what the balance should look like. AB not putting himself in the team is a crime. Thanks for that. I'm not like that, guys. I can't talk about myself too much on here. I am way too shy for that. Alrighty, Market WIP. Now tell how to win against this team. I agree, it would be tough, purely because the balance is really good. And we just spoke about role definitions in the team and how important it is for individuals to understand their roles. You make it so much easier for them if you get the balance of the team spot on. When you're not number 6 batter knows exactly what's expected of him. If he's a batting all-rounder, he knows when he's going to bowl, he knows when he's going to bat, and he knows what his role is. Really important. And if you get that right, it makes it a lot easier for the individuals to do their roles well. All right, moving on then to the 360 quiz, as I'll quickly go through the winner from last week. Remember, the question was Gurbaz beat Sachin, Virat, and Babar in terms of being the youngest to score 8 ODI centuries. And the answer was Quinton de Kock. Who is that guy that's on top of him? Quinny de Kock, incredible left hand player for the Proteas for so many years. I love playing with this guy. And the winner, guys, is Ritesh Dutta. Congratulations to you, guys. I decided to mix it up a bit, as this week we will not be doing 360 quiz, but the 360 inside. And I'm going to be asking myself a question. And this is from you guys, actually. We picked it up in the comments. What are the key changes you make as a batter touring Australia for a test series, especially at places like Perth, which will be the first test match, as you guys remember? I played my very first test match there in Perth. I scored some runs. I think I got 68 odd in 2005. And then my very last test match, my final innings in Perth, was in 2012. I made 169. I'll never forget that test series, by the way. We drew in Brisbane, went to Adelaide. We were in big trouble once again. We found a way to draw there again with Faf du Plessis getting his maiden test century. I batted like a snail because I needed to. That was my role that day. And then we went to Perth, and we could smell the opportunity over there. And we just got momentum. We batted at an incredible pace in that last innings. I think we went at 7 runs and over, and just really took our Australia to the cleaners, which was, you don't often say that in Oz, and it was really one of the most memorable test matches of my life. How did we do it over there, guys? Playing in Australia, first of all, you need to be mentally tough. And Graeme Smith prepared us to this many months before this test series. He told us about the brutality and the hostility of the Australian fans and how they love their cricket, how they will get behind their team, and how you almost have to put earbuds in your ears when walking to the nets or to your hotel. And then in saying that, you need to fight fire with fire. So this is all mental stuff that Graeme taught us leading up to this series. You need to stand up against Australia. You can't go into your little quiet zone and just play your normal game. You need to look them in the eye, face them up with them, have the body language, and be prepared to fight it out for your team. Typically like Virat Kohli does over there. And last but not least, technically, you need to face in the nets and in the warm-up games what you're going to get out there in the middle in the test matches. You can't face your first ball against the Cummins and Stark and Hazelwood and feel rushed and not being used to the bounce. Go do it in the nets, do the hard yards, And the minute you walk out there in that first test match, you will feel prepared. That's all for the 360 show, guys. Thanks for signing in. As per usual, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button. Also, hit the bell notification so you can be notified when I go live and when these shows are released. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you this coming Saturday on 360 Live. Take care.